Welcome to Redvee TV's Instant Fan Reaction, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2021 season, as we reflect on Saints' 22 points to 12 victory against the Leigh Centurions this evening at Leigh Sports Village. Boys, I watched that first half and it reminded me of dog's diarrhea. Which, funnily enough, is what I woke up to at 6 o'clock this morning.
Oh.
So my day never started great. The first half of that game never got much better. I banged on about Seo Matautia scoring the first try for weeks at 20-odd to 1. Forget to put it on this evening because I'm busy dealing with the dog again.
Oh.
And he goes and does that. So all in all, that's my sum up of the game. What about you, Kev?
What a start, eh, Peter? What a start.
It's magnificent. I was going to ask if Dave's dog is all right or if it's sick again. Just to kind of a little twist on the theme of the evening. But that was a penny dropping I just seen there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the day didn't start particularly good for Dave by the sound of things, but yeah, it wasn't a marvelous spectacle, particularly the first half. I think we're looking at. I made a joke saying "sick again," but if I hear the phrase "six again," I think I'm going to scream. I don't know whether referees are just using that to, even out the contest or so they're not giving penalties and blowing their whistle. But it's too easy. So many minor offences are effectively penalties by getting 6 tackles again. I don't know, and we seem to be getting refereed a lot more harshly than other teams. Maybe it's we're wearing Redvee spectacles and only seeing it our way, but if it's happening on a week-by-week basis, I mean, Leigh were not so much cleaner than us tonight. There's absolutely no way. And that's not being disrespectful to Leigh. They put in a great shift. They gave us a very, very tough game this evening. But I don't know. I just can't understand. The 6 again should have been a positive thing, but it's not turning out that way. The way it's been dealt with and refereed at the moment.
Oh, sorry, the referee's still here.
Does that mean it's 10 minutes? 10 in the bin for me. Okay.
Yeah, I think my frustration with the 6 again is I don't think I mustn't understand them. I mustn't understand or see what they're given for, and if I did, then I'd get the reasons for them. Yeah, the refs coach players through all the game. They'll tell them to get back on side or they're offside or not to get within 10. And they'll tell them to get the hand off the ball. And you hear that all the time. And it's not just this game, it's other games as well. And a lot of the times when you get pinged, your hand on the ball. Well, we must be really, really slow at listening to that. But as I said the other week, we need to get, whether it's the head of referees or one of the better referees in, one of the more high-profile referees in, and just turn around and ask them why we're giving so many away, why we're getting pinged for them. I'm not saying that in a bitter way or anything like that. You turn around, you get them in, and you learn from it.
Yeah.
And just with the amount of times we got pinged, I think one was given, and the tackler was over the top of Coote, and Coote moved his arms as if to go, I can't get out of the way, and it got called a 6 again. Now, I'd like to know, just as a fan, just as someone, if I was a neutral watching that, I'd like to know what Coote does there, because if he gets out of the way and knocks the ball free, then it's a penalty. And if he stays where he is, then it's a 6 again. So what's he meant to do? Is he meant to be smarter in the tackle beforehand? Is he meant to be smarter as soon as the tackle's made to get away? How they're reffing it, that's all I want to know. I'm not going to come on here and bag Marcus Griffiths or anything like that, because it's not what I want to do. I don't think I understand them. And if we're putting ourselves in the position for a referee to give something, then we need to find a way of getting out of that very, very quickly.
Can I just ask a question then? If there's 8,000, 9,000 people in that stadium this evening, does the game get refereed the same way?
I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that properly. Whether whether a bit of a vociferous home crowd can push a referee one way, or whether if it's a little bit quiet, especially second half when Saints score the two quick tries, whether that quietens everything down, we'll never know. As I say, I'd like to understand them from a fan's point of view, why we're getting pinged for so many of them.
And I only ask that because if that is how the games are going to be refereed when we're inside the stadium, there's going to be an awful lot of frustrated fans in the crowd, because that game first half was not far off being unwatchable. And combined with the errors from both sides, listen, we'll get on to our own performance in a bit, but it was pretty much an unwatchable 40 minutes. It was horrific. It was penalty, 6 again, penalty, knock on, penalty, 6 again, penalty, knock on, penalty, 6 again, penalty, 6 again. Simbin. Penalty.
I thought that was going to be the last half an hour of this programme. Just you saying them over and over again. Going back to it, that's it. I'm not here to bag Griffiths for that performance. He could argue that teams put themselves in that position to give away some of the penalties and 6 against. There's one like the Roby late hit. Listen, that's borderline, I think, because of the player like flipping. If the player had been on the ground, there'd have been nothing in that at all. As I say, there's a couple of things that as a fan, you kind of just want to know how they're reffing it. That's it. And I'm not, as I say, I'm not bagging him. I just want to understand. Do I have to do a ref's course to get it? If I do, then it might be something to look into.
It does
I can explain to you why.
It does make you wonder, though. We're suffering this every single week from different referees. So is it something that we're doing? But it also seems that whoever we're playing each week is absolute angels against us. And maybe it's us with the Redvee tinted glasses on, but we seem to be getting held down in the tackle a lot as well, and people slowing our game down, and it's not being reffed the same the other way.
I mean, it certainly looks that way. And the good thing is, as we said last week, we're still making these comments after a victory. We're not doing it after having lost a game. So there's nothing to do with being bitter or moaning because we've lost out in the 2 points. We're doing it on the back of our team having won 5 from 5, being top of the table. And as Kev says, I don't want to bag individual referees. As you say, each referee has been much the same at times this season, I should say, especially the last couple of weeks. I don't know whether it's. I think Saints have to do something. I totally agree with Kev saying we have to make an official approach from the basis of learning. Asking for assistance as to where we're going wrong and how that can be addressed. If we do that, then perhaps it might curry favour with the officials if they see that we're trying to work with them. We need to give them a better picture, perhaps. But I still think we're being treated very harshly, and it's penalties and 6 against that we're not sure exactly what they're for. You hear them shouting, as you say, hand on the ball, but referees always have been coaching and to hand off the ball and then get on with it. And as you say, Dave, when people are back in stadia, it's going to be people standing in the terraces, sitting in the seats saying, why is that a 6 again? What's that for? What's that for? And it's going to dominate conversation and change the course of a lot of games. And as you say, certainly that first half tonight was brutal viewing. Anyone whose Wi-Fi cut out during the first 40 had a bonus, because it wasn't a great spectacle at all.
Unfortunately, my streaming code worked this week. I told you it was a bad day. I would have had a 5 on Siones to score first try as well, and would have racked up 100 quid and never did that either. So, listen, let's talk about our performance. Our first half performances, especially, very reminiscent of how we played pre-lockdown last season. But the only difference this time around is that we're actually winning rather than losing games.
Oh, I'll go.
He's done the same as I tell him before, usually, Peter, where he doesn't address one.
That's all right. I think possibly you guys are in a better position than me to judge all the games pre-lockdown. Obviously, the games that weren't on TV, you'll have seen rather than myself. But I think there's elements of that. and I don't mean this as a criticism. I think there's elements of what we did during the dark last days of Cunningham in terms of perhaps trying to grind opponents down before putting a lot of points in the scoreboard. Elements of that, perhaps, I don't know. We'll put that up for debate, but we don't seem to be flying out the traps very often. I know we did against, I think it was Hull KR, we went 12-0 up early doors, but I think we could do a lot more to put teams away and then perhaps control the game from there rather than having ourselves level at this week, 0-0 at half-time against Wakefield, and in other games not having put the teams to bed as our possession and territory and dominance should have done. It's going to perhaps bite us in some of the games, but the good thing is our defence is still very good tonight. We conceded a try down to 12 and an interception, whereas if we'd scored, we probably would have went on to hit 40.
Okay.
Easy to say after the event, but
To play devil's advocate then, that first half we were atrocious, but Grace makes a couple of breaks down the left where we didn't finish our dinner. Mark Percival early on in the contest drops a couple of a bit of ball where, again, if he takes it, offloads or goes through himself, the scoreline's got a completely different look about it.
Yeah.
Are we just failing to convert our opportunities at the moment, Kev?
Yeah, I think the attacking cohesion isn't there. You can't deny that. You have got players like Percy, who's obviously had his injury issues over the past 12 months, coming back in and trying to get up to match sharpness. You've got Lachlan Coote, who's coming in and trying to get back up to full match sharpness. We're having to play with new links. So your second row changes, your centres change, your wingers have changed. Obviously, Coote coming back in, your fullback changes. That then doesn't say that you're going to be playing nice Rolls-Royce style rugby, does it? That's where you're stuttering a little bit and you've just got to get the wins on the board. I do think that at times we're one of them teams who can get dragged up and down levels by teams. So we will kind of play to a level like where people are on social media and like at redvee.net on Twitter saying that we're going to play a big team soon and they're going to blow us out to the water. I think we're the type of team who steps up for games like that, but unfortunately at times steps down for games like this Leigh game, where Leigh weren't going to make it easy for us. We alluded to that in the preview. But we have a thing of we keep them at arm's length just enough. And that's what we've done today. As you say, we could have been 18-0 up before they even had a sniff. But we weren't. And I think that's the main thing. It's we are getting ball. We're getting ball in good position. We just need to see a little bit more. And hopefully once injuries and the like all settle themselves down, hopefully we can start getting a little bit more free-flowing rugby going.
I think that's traditional over the years, isn't it? I think even the best Saints sides in the early years of Super League were guilty of playing to the level of the opposition at times. So we can't look at it with rose-tinted glasses and think it was always bells and whistles on when we had the likes of Scully and Longy and everybody else playing for us. We do have a tendency to do it. But again, this evening, at no point did I ever think we were ever going to lose that match or even come close to it. You always felt we would have enough in the tank.
Yeah, I think at halftime, it's the first time I've been worried about our performance. Not necessarily worried about Leigh coming back into it, because I think we always had another couple of gears. It was another second gear performance, and we could always step through the gears. But that's the first time I've been genuinely a little bit worried about our performance rather than anything else. And you're right, we can't roast into it. And as the old saying goes, you win nothing in April. It's about getting results and about kind of building towards the end of the season. You look at what Leeds did years ago, where they just were abysmal all year, just picking up wins here, there and everywhere, and then they just aimed for grand final rugby and got to the playoffs, won every game. All of a sudden, the champions. Nobody remembers, as I said last week, no one will remember this game if we end up champions again.
Yeah, obviously a big tie to come next week in the Challenge Cup against Huddersfield. We're going to make changes again, aren't we? Obviously, I think Sio Matausi's threw a punch there, which is going to get picked up by the match review panel, and we'll probably see him get a game ban. And then obviously the awful end to the game where James Bentley's gone down and looks like he's maybe suffered some sort of break either to his ankle or lower leg, which could potentially keep him up for a long time. Not the time we want these sorts of things to happen, obviously, with the Challenge Cup coming up next week, Peter.
Yeah, it's not good, and you could tell right away. Ben Tost isn't a guy who kind of shows pain very much. So when you see him kind of like recoiling, in agony at that tackle, you knew it was a bad one. We obviously wish him a speedy recovery. But as you say, with Matautia, out, and no Matty Lees, no Morgan Knowles. Hopefully Joel Thompson will be back next week, but we are going to be perhaps a little bit light in the back row. We hopefully should still have enough. I thought Jake Wingfield went pretty well tonight again. I might throw a suggestion out for Roby at loose forward next week. Aaron Smith starting for an extra back row. I think Roby could play that, and it gives you an extra link player as well. And he's got certainly got the physical attributes to play in that position as an extra distributor. And Aaron Smith knows the game as well. I think that would perhaps be a good option rather than throwing in Dan Norman, for example, in a cup quarter final. I don't think that would be right for him. Throwing him into that match, which, although we're at home against a team, Huddersfield, who we know we could and possibly should, touchwood, beat, but it's a cup quarter final. You don't take anything for granted. Horses for courses as much as possible. And I think Roby at loose forward is going to be my shout for the week for that one. I think he could certainly do that, but hopefully Bentley comes back soon. But I've got misgivings. I think it's going to be a long-term injury, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think, did Joe Batchelor go off for a HIA as well? Yeah. So that's another second rower who you think is next cab off the rank to come in if he failed that. We've not heard yet, obviously doing this straight away after the game, not heard if he's failed it. I don't dislike that, Peter. I don't dislike that idea at all. Also gives Aaron Smith some game time, doesn't it? That means you can rotate, probably Roby out a little bit more. You don't have to play him for as long or longer stints. It'll be interesting to see how we go. I mean, we've got a plethora of kind of three quarters there. And while we've always been good in the forwards, it almost seems like we're running out of second rowers quite quickly. I think we've been blessed that we've not had too many injuries in the second row, have we? So it'd be interesting to see how we go, especially if Joel Thompson doesn't make it. If Matauti gets banned for a game, if Batchelor has failed his HIA, Bentley's going to be out for a while. It'd be interesting to see who we throw in at second row and loose forward.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that one, and another consideration is if Tommy's fit next week, what do you do in the back line? I'm throwing it out right away that for me, I would have Wellesby ahead of Percival at the moment. Percy's on his way back. I don't think he's quite there yet, but you've got to go with the guys I think who are fitter and in better form, and that might sound harsh, but I think that's just where Percy is at the moment in his comeback. It's a cup tie. You can get away with losing points perhaps in a league match, but we're going to be already down in numbers for the cup next week by the sound of things. And if it's a straight choice, then I think we need to go with the guys who have been in possession of the jerseys, and that'd be my choice. But it's easy to say that now. But I think it would be perhaps risky to do it any other way.
Well, Percy, was Percy still on the field at the end?
I think so, yeah.
Really? We asked him in his testimonial, the question and answer that he did for us, if Tommy Makinson had considered moving into the second row. The curveball, I'll just throw that out there as a curveball. He could do it. He could tackle. He's quick. He's got a decent set of hands on it. it'd be a lot different coming in from that wing and defending there. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be the daftest idea that I can come up with this week. I'll see if I can beat it.
Well, it's not the first daft idea that we've had between us, that's for sure. But as you say, they're not the daftest. The guys we've spoke out have got the attributes to play in those positions. And whether it calls for that rather than an untried youngster, because it is a cup tie, I think we'll have to put the most experienced options out there. So we shall see. It depends, obviously. Hopefully, if Big Joe's maybe passed his HIA, we don't know. It might have been just just taking no risks at that stage in the game, perhaps. But hopefully, if Joel Thompson returns, it gives us another good solid option there as well. But it's going to be an interesting week to see who's fit.
It will.
Yeah, big week coming up for us. I think obviously we talked earlier about rising to the occasion in games. It's a big month coming up, isn't it? Obviously the cup game next week. And then we've got, I think, who have we got the week after?
It's Salford on the Monday
again.
the 17th with crowds.
Yeah,
Woo!
and then we've got Catalan and Hull. We'll find out a lot more over the next month about where we stand, won't we? As a team, and I suspect we'll probably rise to the occasion, and we may well still find ourselves unbeaten. Yeah, Salford on the 17th, then Catalan away, and then Hull FC at home. So a decent run of fixtures where we will see where we're at. But you know what? You can only beat what's put in front of you, and we're still doing that. We'll move on to. If I can get it all. There we go. Can you see that?
Nope.
I've just got a white screen.
Hang on. Give me a moment.
Six again.
Hey, there we go.
There we
Okay,
are.
some of the tweaks from this evening. Stuart Ross, similar to Huddersfield game, clunky in the first half, as well as poor discipline. Second half a lot better, looked dangerous at times. John Kelly said we continue to play down to our opposition, as Kev said before. Yeah, agreeing with you, Kev. Both in attack and in our discipline. Defence was good as usual. A win's a win, but massively overshadowed by the injury to Bentley. The scream of anguish didn't sound good. Paul's glad he didn't travel 100 miles for that one. Neil Connolly saying scrappy again. Bentley out is a big blow. Matt said,
by the way, I'm guessing Paul Caswell lives 100 miles away from Leigh, not in St Helens, and he's just driving there and back about 8 times before parking.
Well, he might now be riding around the St Helens Linkway roundabout, trying to work out what they're doing with them traffic lights. Because that's an accident central waiting to happen, but we'll see on that one. Matt, a really quite poor performance with a few bright sparks. This team will eventually need to play well to win. Yeah, but that's the same with every club. You cannot only play for 40 minutes in a major game. Bentley injury overshadows it all. Wayne says fairly dismal overall, really. Leigh fought well, but our attack was stop-start. A night to forget despite the win. Sporting Chemist said we're thoroughly boring to watch, but effective and going through the motions. And Sean Bibby said poor attack, poor discipline, poor ref, poor game. 2 poor points in a poor bag. And we're going into the game for next week. Poorly refreshed. Yes, do you know what? Listen, it was terrible first half. It was that bad that I started with it being a 6 o'clock kickoff, asking people what they were having for the tea. That's how bad it was. So, Terry was having fresh seasoned Yorkshire sparrows with some chicken, and that looks lovely.
Tell you what, you can't hide money, can you? Blame me.
There you go. Look at that. That's not a cheap bottle of red, is it? Jan Thompson bringing it down to the class with a nice bottle of bit of Moretti and a bit of spicy chili peanuts. Ooh. Yeah. Aid was having
a Thai green curry or something. Yeah, Thai green curry.
Thai green curry. There you go.
Well done, Kev.
It's like MasterChef. MasterChef, the idiots.
You speak for yourself.
Sam in Cyprus, serving in the British Army, was having surf and turf Cyprus style, and that looks good as well. I like them.
I'd be all over that. I would be all over that. Like
that is fantastic. So, who wins tea of the evening?
The Moretti and peanuts.
Needs more
Sea
than
of
one.
Champions from Jan.
I'll try and bring this a little bit more highbrow. I like Terry's scran. That, in fact, calling it scran's an
That
insult.
looks really good.
That's John Turode and Greg Wallace would put them through, so he gets my vote as well, definitely.
See, you've got to end on a positive note. So Terry Kane, you are our meal of the night. Right then, quickly, you've got a minute each. Final thoughts, Kev?
First time I've been worried about our attacking cohesion, but still not worried about us losing the game. As I say, I think we can get dragged down by a team, and to be honest, I'm still waiting for us to click. When we do click, a team like Leigh, we will put 40-50 on and we'll be fine. Interesting to see who we go with in the second rowers next week.
Peter?
Yeah, Kev's absolutely nailed it there. We've not hit our straps yet, but we're still 5 from 5. Defence is very good, but we need to do something in-house and also, I think, through the RFL to sort out the issues with discipline. I think some hard work in the training paddock needs done in terms of the attack. But I think, as Kev says, as soon as we hit a proper performance, an 80-minute performance, someone is going to get their pants pulled down and a good spanking spectacularly. And let's hope it's next week in the Cup.
Okay, right. I think that is it. Thank you both for joining us. That was far more entertaining than the 80 minutes on show. Don't forget, we will be back next week to preview the Challenge Cup game against Huddersfield. And I'd like to thank Leigh for deciding to use a Nissan Micra to signal 6 again behind the posts. It wasn't a hooter, was it? Next week, Saints are introducing this sound.
Dave, is everything all right, mate? Do you need us to come round and see you?
I think we're going to need a bigger boat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will catch you next week for another episode of Redvee TV.
With more great content like Dave pressing sound effects on his phone.
Oh, dear.
We put another bomb up. Theo, catch it.